JD, give me your phone.
Oh, thanks. All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the December 14th Litchfield Budget Committee meeting. Call the meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. We do have one of our members joining via WebEx this evening, so we will entertain a motion to allow remote participation.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Leary, second by Mr. Hayes. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstained, motion carries 7-0-0. Mr. Taylor, if you're able to come off mute, just let us know why you're joining remote this evening and if anyone's in the room with you.
There is no one in the room with me and remote due to illness.
Thank you, sir. Hope you get to feeling better. All right, so from here on out, we'll do any roll call votes if we have to vote on anything this evening. Not planning on voting on anything, but if we do, we'll do roll call vote for remote participation. Any review or additions to tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, open it up for public input. And seeing none, we will close public input. We'll have a second public input session at the end of the meeting. Next, we have correspondence. Do a quick summary of our correspondence since our last meeting last week. Thank you to Ms. Stevens for pulling this together. On December 7th, Ron Oblinus of 15 Riverview Circle provided the committee with his written comments read at the December 7th committee meeting. Also on December 7th, School Board Rep Andrew Cutter shared the school district function codes. On December 9th, Recording Secretary Matthew Sullivan sent the draft December 7th meeting minutes. And then on December 12th, Chair Sun forwarded project materials of the elementary school project and the School Facilities Improvement Committee meeting video. Also on that date, Chair Sun shared the December 14th meeting agenda. And also on that date, Chair Sun forwarded the Board of Selectmen draft warrant articles, which we'll be reviewing tonight. Next, we have review and acceptance of minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to review our minutes from last week?
Yep. Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Motion for Mr. Burke. Do I have a second? Second for Mr. Barca. We will do a roll call vote. Mr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Cutter?
Aye, yes.
Mr. Leary?
Yes.
Ms. Douglas?
Yes.
I am a yes. Ms. Stevens?
Yes.
Mr. Barca?
Yes.
Mr. Burke?
Yes.
And Mr. Taylor?
Abstain.
Motion carries 8-0-1. All right. Now for the bulk of our fun tonight, we have our friends from the town joining us. Tonight's purpose is to go over the town warrant articles. We'll go through and read the warrant articles. This will be an opportunity for us to hear from the town, any additional context, and also an opportunity to ask questions on these warrant articles. We will not vote on these warrant articles until our January 4th meeting, okay? Tonight is just the town warrant articles, and as a reminder, next week during the school board meeting on the 21st, Mr. Cutter, over at the fire station, right? And that meeting is at
5:30.
5:30. That's a joint session where budget committee members will be able to attend. Also be able to listen and ask questions on the school warrant articles, which we will also vote on January 4th. So with that, we'll jump into the town warrant articles. Everyone should have a copy of those. I'm going to read the warrant article so we can have it read out loud. We'll allow Ms. Kleiner to give any additional context that we have to it, and then we can ask our questions from there, okay? So the first warrant article, Article 1 has to do with election of officers. Article 2 is being held for zoning. So we'll start with Article 3, which is the operating budget. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by the vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling $7,896,653. Should this article be defeated, the default budget should be $7,841,038, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the town of Litchfield or by law or by the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Estimated 2024 tax rate impact is 12 cents. Turn it over, Ms. Kleiner. Any comments, context before questions on this one?
Good evening.
Or Ms. White,
So I
sorry.
do want to, after I had sent Chairman Sun the draft, we had some discussion, Karen and I, and there's been an adjustment to the default, so I have a new number there. It's $7,844,943.
7844, what was the last part?
943.
943. Thank you.
And
What were those adjustments due to?
there'll be another adjustment. That's right, we do not have the library's number in there, so there will be another adjustment coming.
Okay.
And does it include final health numbers? Because there's a note on this one, it does not include final health numbers.
So the budget number at the time did not, we now feel pretty confident that we do have the health information in there, and we feel pretty confident that's your final budget number
Okay.
as far as the operating budget. And that operating budget does leave us 99,732 roughly under the cap, which is much better than we expected, and obviously the changes in health plans helped to mitigate some of that health increase that we were so concerned about.
Yep.
So, in addition to that, as you'll see later on, when we are discussing the warrant articles, there was some changes because of the police contract that helped us as well in that area. But once we have the default budget from the library and have added that in, we'll get a final default number over to you.
So the default, that 7,844,943 doesn't include any of the library.
No,
So the default will likely be higher.
should be higher, yes.
Okay.
So fifty.
Any comments, questions?
Have we gotten, and maybe I missed it, a copy of the default?
No, we were still working on it when I sent this to Chairman Sun. So we'll get that right after we get the library. We'll get a copy sent over to you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on Article 3?
I do have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
So I'm a little concerned we're going back to the old habit of, well, it's 99,000 under the cap. Well, we just increased the cap up to 5%. Can I get a percentage of growth instead of how close we came to the cap?
Yes, so you're looking at the percentage that the budget is over last year's?
Scott, is that what you're,
Yes, so basically just looking for what is the percentage, historically it was, going to be around 3% based on the old rule. Are we at 4%, 4.5%?
So I can do that relatively quickly. So the budget committee. No, we were 4.1 with the selectmen.
if you don't have that handy, we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, I think
we-
you're at 3%.
I think you are as well, but
No, I think it's 3. I think it's just under 3%.
Without the library.
Without the, no,
Without-
but that,
No, the library.
The library is in the
default.
operating, it's not in the
not the
default, that's what I
default.
understood.
correct.
Yeah.
We'll get, Scott, we'll get that as a follow-up we'll get the exact percentage as a follow-up.
Okay, thank you. 3% sounds encouraging, because that would be moving in the right direction from switching to the new system, but not jumping, spending astronomically, so that's great.
Any other comments or questions on Article 3? All right. Article 4, Human Services and Health Agencies. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $22,350 to support human services and health agencies providing services to the town of Litchfield? Estimated 2024 tax rate impact is 2 cents.
So this is the warrant article for the human services. It is up from 2023, but not as high as what was requested. So requested was 24,450. Recommended by the committee was 22,350. Most of the increase was one agency, which was Meals on Wheels, which
Did we
had a
get,
higher number of residents.
did we get a summary? I mean, we may have gotten it, I just don't remember seeing a summary of the request.
Not in the budget.
And I feel like in the past, we've gotten
It
the
was,
numbers that justify the request.
it was in the original budget, I believe.
Okay.
If it isn't,
Yeah, so under health agent, well, you have the 2023 requests linked. I don't know about 2024 requests, but yeah, so under 4415 out of the town budget, there's a list of agencies. And it actually does have 2024 requests in a column.
the 24,450.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe I had put those in before the committee, made final recommendations, which just came before the Board of Selectmen Monday night. So I can change the link on this, but those were the requests, and then the committee cut them slightly.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on Article 4? Okay. Article 5, plow truck lease purchase. To see if the town will vote to authorize the selectmen to enter into a 6-year lease purchase agreement for the sum of $161,640 for the purpose of lease purchasing a plow truck with equipment and attachments for the highway department, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $26,940 for the first year's payment for that purpose. The first year's payment in the amount of $26,940 shall come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised from taxation. This lease agreement contains an escape clause. Estimated 2024 tax rate impact is $0. Estimated tax rate impact for 2025 is 2 cents. And then there's a table that shows the cost per year from 2024 through 2028, and the total cost, $161,640,000.
So once again, this will be a new truck, but it will be replacing the line that you've had in the budget for the past 6 years for the one that we previously purchased. I do have to note that they will look at interest rates, and interest rates on this could change slightly, so that may result in the monthly payment changing slightly. We'll have more of an idea come the 1st of March. That's how late it will run. So, working from that, we did have a bit of good news that I wanted to share, and that is that we received final selection for receipt of a truck through the Granite State Clean Fleets Grant Program.
That's a mouthful.
So, yes, And so we had submitted 2 trucks. We got awarded 1 truck, which was the highest of the 2. So it's roughly $300,000, and the town has a 20% match, which we will take out of the Public Works Trust Fund. So we will work with the New Hampshire DES to finalize those documents, and it will go to the Governor's Executive Council for approval. So that will be a brand-new Western Star 46, which will replace our 2000 International.
So this would be in addition to that too, right?
Yes.
This warrant article.
Yes, it will.
Can you just explain why there's no tax impact in '24?
It's the 26,940 will come from unassigned.
So how does this affect the tax cap and whether or not we can vote on it? Is the number 26,940 or is it 0?
It doesn't. It's my understanding is, someone correct me if I'm wrong, is us voting on this does not impact going over the tax cap,
Okay.
because we look at 2024 impact.
Right, and if they're using end-of-year funds for 2024, it's essentially 0.
Correct.
So
But they're showing the impact for 25 and beyond through the rest of the lease.
Which I appreciate, I like seeing those. Thank you for that.
which
So-
is just an estimate, but it's a
No.
pretty good one that it will be around that.
No, absolutely. It's very good for voters to know what the annual purchase price is going forward, so I appreciate you laying it out that way
And it will be a tax cap impact
next year.
Next year.
next year,
Yeah.
since it's not being funded by the budget this year.
Will there be a note because you mentioned you won't know the interest rate by March 1st. So I'm gonna guess that's gonna be after things are printed. You're gonna have a note in the warrant article that say like this could adjust due to interest rate changes? Like the amount?
We will have a range. They'll pretty much know by the beginning of February where it's going. It
Okay.
could be no increase at that time, or they could tell us that, it could be a 0.5% and what that, 0.5% represents.
Okay.
But the final lease documents that we receive after approval will have the final tax rate,
Okay.
the final interest rate.
And do you know what the balance of the unassigned fund balance is right now?
The overall?
I didn't look at it, no, but we can.
I'm sure Karen's a whiz at finding that.
Yeah. She'll find it.
Maybe just while we wait, a question on my side. So I'm referring back to the capital improvement plan that was just recently approved by the board, right? And in the plan for the highway department, we have a 2000 International replacement beginning in 2024 through the year 2028. It sounds like that'll be wiped because of the truck that we've received from a grant, which is
Correct.
fantastic.
Minus the 20%.
Minus 20%. We also have an F-350 truck replacement for $90,000 for 2024. Is this truck that you're looking to purchase, is this in replacement of the truck that's in the plan? Or is it a net new truck altogether?
So, great question. So, there will be no additional ask for the, F-350,
Replacement.
what it was. We're replacing this, and that was the decision. This provides a little bit more versatility.
That's
So-
great. It's just significantly higher in price than anything
It
that we've
is.
talked about as a part of the plan.
We also were waiting right until, we were hoping if we got the second truck that we asked for, then we may be able to go with a different truck here, but where we didn't. So we are right under the gun to find out exactly what we are getting from the grant and what we didn't. That was the second truck. This was the second truck we put in the grant.
Got it. So for all intents and purposes for the CIP, both the F-350 truck and the 2000 International will come off the future plan. Okay.
Is there a reason why they went away from the 350 that was on the capital improvement plan?
So,
Did you say it was $90,000?
We had F-350 truck replacement in year 2024 for $90,000.
And now we're replacing a truck for 160.
Right, that's the reason why I raised it.
Yeah.
this truck, the second truck that we put in the grant, we didn't put in CIP. And so we didn't get the second truck that we put into the grant. So that's what we're asking for here, which has a little bit more versatility than that, than what.
Right, but you're
Yeah,
not getting what's in the CIP, right?
Right.
Well, the one you're getting from
Not
the grant is
explaining it
replaced,
well.
well, the one you're getting from the grant is replacing the 2,000,
Yes.
The 2000 International.
right, which you plan to replace.
Mm-hmm.
But then you also plan to add a 350.
They,
Right.
they plan to replace an F-350, an aging F-350 in 2024.
Right,
I heard her say you're not gonna do that now.
Right.
right, instead
that-
of replacing with this.
Right.
But that's what I'm asking, is why we didn't stay with the 350, which was in the plan.
Yeah, that's the question. That's the question. Why the switch from the 350 to this?
And it's a big switch, right? It's a
Because-
$70,000 difference.
Because we wanted to wait and see. We did put this truck into the grant. So if we had gotten this truck from the grant, we would have stayed with leasing the 350.
So the plan was to put both of them in the grant to try to get both of them through the grant
Correct.
and then take the 350 from the CIP.
Yeah. But we didn't get it, so. Oh,
Do you have the,
8.74%. 2,518,950. And again, by policy, we're required to have 8%.
I'm sorry, can you give me that number again?
2518950.
which is 8.74%,
Yeah.
and by policy you have to carry a minimum of 8%.
So you're
So-
close.
So with that,
It's
wouldn't
too
we be
close.
better off to pay for 2024, not using the unassigned fund balance, but just, through taxation? And leave the unassigned fund balance alone because it's very close to 8%? And let this thing either pass or fail based upon real numbers this upcoming year, as opposed to zero impact first year, and then, 2 cents impact subsequent years.
It's certainly a good question. So this year, as we reported to the Board of Selectmen, on Monday night, there's a significant amount of surplus. So we feel very comfortable
In your
that
current
that
budget.
unassigned will raise, significantly.
Okay.
So there's the other key number. You just said is substantial amount of money. So how much are we looking at right now at year end out of the general fund?
So we estimated, after, everything is said and done, that we'll have about 300,000 that is going to unassigned.
Additional monies. That number's not in the 2.5, right?
Correct, correct.
What was that, Mr. Lear?
That money will go in the unassigned fund balance, because we need to get that number up there. We're at 8.7, we should be around 10%. Because the town and school budgets keep going up and we're not keeping pace with it. We're dangerously low right now. If we don't get up around 10%, something happens, we might not have money to pay people.
So except for let's say the added flexibility of this truck for $161,640, would it be okay to order or consider the 350 replacement at 90,000? Is
So-
that gonna severely impact our services to the residents of Litchfield?
It does provide more services to be able to use the, this truck for, especially when you're looking at winter maintenance. So, again, one of Highway's objectives has been to be able to provide as much service from the existing department as we can, right? So to rely on other people's trucks less and less, and be able to put people for cheaper money in our own trucks. And that's one of the goals that having a truck like this moves towards.
Does this truck require a CDL?
This one would not.
Okay,
The
'cause
other
that was
one,
one of the
no,
reasons we were looking
absolutely.
at 350, so,
Yeah.
okay, so if it still does not require a CDL, then at least that hasn't been changed.
Yeah, I think Kevin had told us that every truck he's buying going forward will not require CDL.
Which makes sense.
But all our full-time personnel have CDLs, or will be required to have
This one through the grant will be a
Yeah.
CDL for sure.
So,
Yes, the one in the grant, absolutely. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on Article 5?
A couple. Mr. Cutter, what year is the truck replacement in the CIP?
2024.
Okay.
So the CIP has just a full 90,000 for the F-350 in 2024, and then kind of an amortized 33,000 a year for 5 years for the 2000 International that's being replaced with the grant truck.
Okay. And then my follow-up question is, if this passes Article 5 and the grant truck comes through, what then would be the oldest year for the truck on fleet?
If you don't have that, we can get that
Yeah,
as a
I
follow-up
don't
from
know that.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown.
I looked at these trucks when I was doing the grant for a million times, but I'm not gonna take a chance that I have, so I will get it for you, sir.
Okay.
I just get concerned that if we do 2 trucks, now granted, one came as a grant, but then come refresh time, we're putting a ticking time bomb, that then all of a sudden we've got a budget issue of replacing 2 trucks in the same year.
If only we had a fund that we could draw from.
So the one
Big
that,
cash.
I know the one that was not, awarded was for replacement of the 2009. So I believe that's around the oldest, because we applied in the grant for the oldest trucks. But I'll verify that.
Anything else on Article 5 this evening?
Just quickly back to the general fund, you said we're expecting a $300,000 surplus. Do you have a rough idea of what percentage that would bring us to?
No, so this is a very tricky part about the unassigned. The unassigned is actually determined and calculated by the New Hampshire DRA. And that takes into consideration not only the town budget, but the school budget and the county. So it's on total appropriations of all areas. We could do some rough, but it also, you need to know what warrants have passed. So, I mean, if we assumed that all the school warrants and all the town warrants passed, and did an estimate on the county budget and the school budget and ours, we could roughly, but that would be just an educated guess, because you have no idea of what's
You're
gonna
not gonna know
pass.
until
Okay.
the warrants.
Right.
Thanks.
Do have
Anything
one
else?
other question just related to what Ms. Stevens just asked about. What is the lowest that the unassigned fund balance gets to when we've gone ahead and had to pay the entire first quarter of town and school, you know, all their expenses? Do we get, like, how dangerously low do we get before this next round of funding kicks in?
I've seen it like 1.5,
Down to,
yeah.
down to,
Per-
1.5%?
No,
Oh,
no,
no,
million.
in our general fund to pay bills.
Anything else on Article 5 or the current conversation?
Yeah, the article that's gonna be in front of the voters, will it also state estimated tax impact for 2025 to be 2 cents, or will that be left off? And just the preceding statement, estimated 2024 tax impact of $0.
So I have actually submitted a, ask to legal. The board would like it on. We just wanna make sure. I actually believe it is, legal to do, because some people do it actually in a table.
I was gonna say, if
where
you do it the
says
table
under-
underneath it, yeah.
Yeah, so the board has asked for it to be
And
on,
the table would be there as well.
yes.
Anything else on Article 5? All right, Article 6. Additional assistant librarian hours. Shall the town vote to increase the weekly hours of the assistant librarian number 2 position from 8 hours per week to 24 hours per week, effective April 1st, 2024, for an estimated annual wage, benefit, and other related cost of $14,563, and further vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,696 for wage, benefit, and other related costs for the period of April 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. Estimated 2024 tax rate impact is 1 cent. There is a table below that shows a breakdown for 2024 as well as 2025 of wages and benefits as well, and the total for those.
This is actually where, we asked, Vicky and, the trustee to come forward, because we didn't have, great information for the board, which I realized Monday evening, so they did not vote on this, warrant article, so I will let.
Yeah,
them
ladies, please
speak
feel
it.
free to come
I'm
up.
gonna take some notes.
Sure.
I don't think it
We'll
would-
let-
I just never-
We'll let you all kind of give the context behind it and additional information, and then open it up for questions.
Okay, so the context is just the increased demand for services from the Children's Department and the extra demand that's already there. And so we have one children's librarian. She does 4 programs weekly plus others monthly. And we're running some mornings into problems where there's not enough parking. We've got, just the other morning, we had 28 in the children's room for story time. And then we had probably 8 knitters upstairs on their regular schedule. And so, you know, staff tries to park, not in the parking lot, but it does get to be a problem. If we had extra help, we could add another session so that we could bring that number down and leave room in the parking lot for people that just want to go to the library and pick up their books. But it's also a matter of being able to provide some consistent activity for the 5 to 8-year-old range, for the after-school kind of thing. It also would allow the children's librarian to make school visits, which she can't do now because somebody has to be in the children's room all the time. So she could do that. We also get requests from other community groups to participate in things like Spirit of Litchfield, Santa's Breakfast, a whole host of all those things that go on throughout the year where they would like to have our children's librarian there. And we would certainly also like to be there to promote services and, you know, try and make sure everybody knows what we have available to them for free.
Great. Questions, comments? Go ahead.
I just had a quick question on the wording of this. So the impact to 2024's tax rate is only that 10,696. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah, it is worded badly, in my opinion, too. It
Is
looks
that-
like you're asking for $25,000 versus,
I used the same wording as last year,
No, I
so
know.
I,
But
Maybe I just
yeah,
didn't
okay.
read it.
when I first read it, I thought it was $25,000, but it is
We can work
the way it's, yeah.
Yeah, I see that now.
I
that you
don't
say
know
Well, it
that.
says
why
and further,
I wasn't
right?
confused.
Because and
last year.
further, oh, you're asking for more money? What's that
Yeah.
for?
It
Right.
says, yeah, you're asking for 14,000, and then it says, and further to raise and appropriate 10,000 more, so it almost looks like you're
Okay,
The
I see
20
what you're saying.
25,000.
I think if it were just modeled like the plow truck
Correct.
lease purchase, it would be a little clearer.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, that is how it's been worded in the past, but we can come up with something different to clarify.
I mean, the table clears it up, but I think, I agree with
People
you.
read it quickly, they're just gonna
Yeah.
think it's 25,000.
Yeah, we can work on that.
A couple of questions. You mentioned, I think I heard you say school visits. Is that, can you tell me more? What does that look like for the library?
So, the children's librarian does get asked to come from time to time, but, typically they go, to promote the summer reading program, which helps, keep kids reading, and so there's less drop-off when they get back to school. But, so they go in and hype the program, do a story, depending on the age. They might read a story, they might read excerpts from chapter books,
Got it.
And to encourage them to come in and check them out and to read for fun, not just for school.
Okay. And then my second question, with the pavilion that's going up, is
Mhm.
there, I assume there's expected to be increased programs and offerings due to that?
Yes, if we have some extra help, then we would be able to run some of these things out there, and that would alleviate some of the space issues that come up.
Other comments, questions? Okay. Thank you, ladies.
Thanks.
All right, next we have Article 7, Property Revaluation Expendable Trust Fund. I think this is Mr. Leary's favorite. Shall the town vote to raise and appropriate $25,000 to be placed in the Property Revaluation Expendable Trust Fund as previously established? Estimated 2024 tax rate impact is 2 cents.
And I will note, it should say recommended by the Board of Selectmen 310.
Okay.
We voted against it?
Yes.
Is that you? I'd be interested in understanding why,
We already have a balance in this that we've saved up for the past few years.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, we put in 25,000 a year, and then every fifth year, we have to spend $100,000
Yeah.
for the reevaluation. My vote against it is because I think that, I've been saying this for a couple of years, that the town should go out and competitively bid this like we do a lot of other things.
yeah,
See if we can get a better bang for the buck.
it used to be in the budget, so.
Even,
Do that regardless.
yeah, I was gonna say,
Just a pool of money to,
I think you could still do that.
Yeah.
And now you've got a bank of money that's hopefully maybe more than you need if you come in lower.
Why do we put this to warrant? Why don't we just put the $25,000 in the budget every year?
It used to be.
it was in the budget. It
Why
got
not?
pulled.
It was
out.
the big,
We have to spend this money, it's not a choice. Why
but it
is
was every fourth year, it was $100,000.
Yeah, why
So
don't
it
we
was
like-
legit.
It's a spike,
Can't you just
yeah.
budget money to go into the trust fund every year?
Well,
I think that has to be.
Something
No.
Troy
Has to
came
be
up
It
with.
has to go
Troy
through.
came up with this
Yeah,
a few
you
years
can't
ago.
just take the,
Yeah,
operating budget and transfer it over.
It's like you
It
can't
has to
take
be
it from one
voted
side and
on.
just vote on everything.
Yeah.
right. Any comments, questions? Article 7. Article 8.
Just on that,
Yep, go
it
ahead.
says no amount to be raised from taxation, but tax impact is 2 cents, so is that might be a misprint, right?
No, it doesn't say that.
Yeah.
On Article 7?
Yeah,
Yes,
this
sir.
sum is to come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised
I
from
don't-
new taxation.
I don't have that
I
one.
don't have that.
I'm not,
Am I
that's,
am I looking at an old one?
could
I
be.
think you are looking at the one from Monday night, so, yeah.
So,
So you all updated that? Are we looking at
You
the
read-
correct
you read
one?
it
You
as
are
2
looking
cents,
at the
right?
correct.
Did read it as 2 cents.
so are you
yeah.
funding
It
it
is
out of
So,
fund
two
yeah,
balance?
so if it's coming out of the fund balance, it shouldn't have a tax impact,
Right,
right?
so ours doesn't have that, so.
Ours has 2 cents.
Right, you're
Right.
looking at Article 7, not 8,
Yeah.
right?
So are we raising and appropriating, or are we coming from the unassigned?
We're raising and appropriating, though.
No, it usually comes from unassigned.
It usually does, but that's not what it says this year. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's come from the unassigned fund balance the last few years, right?
Yes, it has.
So it should say,
Could be.
What's the
should-
plan? Is it coming from unassigned or is it coming from tax?
no new
I
taxation.
only saw the warrants Monday night.
We'll say this sum to come from
guys have more time
unassigned
to
fund
look than I
balance
did.
and no amount to be raised by tax.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Tax rate
Yeah.
impact to 0.
We got them on the 12th.
Huh?
We got them on the 12th,
You got them on the 12th?
yeah. So you had longer to look at it.
Any additional questions on Article 7? Article 8, to establish a recreation expendable trust. To see if the town will vote to establish a recreation expendable trust fund per RSA 3119A for the maintenance and repair of recreation equipment, facilities, and systems, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be placed in the fund. Further, to name the selectmen as agents to expend from the fund. This sum to come from the unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised from taxation. Estimated 2024 tax rate impact, $0.
That is correct. So this $25,000 and the creation of the fund was requested by the Recreation Commission and approved by the board. The thought process here is that there is a significant amount of work and systems throughout, not only at Dara Pond, but at some of our other locations that needs work, and there's no amount that is generally set aside in the budget for such expenses. You did have $8,000 that was added last year at town meeting, but the thought is we need to have somewhere that we can put these expenses should they occur. And one that I can note for you is just a couple weeks ago, we lost heat at Dara. And so there was about roughly $1,400 worth of work that was required. Now, luckily, they had the money that was put in, but there's other work that needs to be done. There's plumbing work that we just received a quote for, and that's $8,000. So with a building of that age, and with the age of some of the equipment throughout the town, we need to have some money set aside for emergencies.
What is the target amount for this fund?
I
Well-
recommended 100,000.
Yes, so I did not receive a target amount, but there was substantial discussion Monday evening by the selectmen that there should be a follow-up next year.
You happen to have a list of, say, over like the last 5 years of repairs and maintenance that they've expended?
We could put one together relatively easily, yeah.
There's some big ticket items that
Yeah,
they've
was
been
there
avoiding too,
$40
like the floor over there needs.
Yeah, and
needs
if you have a
help,
list
and
too
that's
of-
gonna be expensive, yeah.
Yeah,
Couple-
things that
yeah.
have been put off.
That's what I was gonna
A
ask.
couple of years ago, I think it was
I
like
think it was like
almost,
40.
yeah.
40-something.
Knowing how
To
Kerry
replace
likes
the unit.
trust funds,
Well,
this is a good idea.
My other question is that it's for repair and maintenance, so it's not gonna be to save up money to put in a new playground. It's only to maintain the existing facilities.
Yes,
I
and that was
understand.
specifically discussed.
I think it's an excellent idea. I'm concerned that it's not enough if it doesn't even cover the floor to town hall.
Well, the reality is that
It's a
floor
start.
could be a warrant article in of itself. Like, why, like, we know what needs to
Why
be
should
done.
it?
Actually
We have-
surprised it's not a warrant
It was
article.
discussed on the CIP as being a warrant article, like,
Yeah.
an item of that size and of that specificity could be its own warrant article, you wouldn't need this.
Yeah, that's not maintenance, that's like replace.
Well, that's major
That is
repair.
maintenance.
The amount that that's used.
Significant maintenance.
Right.
It's just little maintenance.
I mean, it could be, establish this fund for $50,000. The first project expected to be used for is this floor.
50's not gonna cover that floor.
But I
thought I
believe
heard 40.
in CIP, I believe in CIP, we discussed that needs more research.
Well, I think part of it was like, there was a lot, well, there was that and the discussion, like, what do we want to do with the building, right? Like, are we revisiting the idea of possibly trying to convince people to significantly invest, or are we replacing the floor?
Right.
And once we open up the floor, like, what other issues are we opening up? Because I don't know the construction of it, like, is there subfloor issues, is there soil issues and moisture and other stuff? Like, It's gonna be a Pandora's box.
The
you know?
LMS gym floor that we were talking about, just for some point of reference, right? We were planning on that being $200,000.
I think this one wasn't this more because it's bigger?
Okay.
I have to,
And we're not even talking about like
Much bigger.
structural
Like twice.
issues that have to be fixed with that, so,
Just the resurfacing.
just the resurfacing.
Well, again, this is a start.
so I mean, for the purposes of, say, like hot water going out and other stuff, that makes sense. I think the other thing we have to be concerned about, if you wanna make big funds, is we're looking at big prices on our, hey, how much money can we really keep asking the taxpayer for at one shot? 25 grand is much more palatable than 50 to 100.
Yeah, but it takes you 10 years to get to what you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it takes you longer if they keep voting no. As I'm sure you know.
Any other, any other comments or questions on Article 8?
And again, this is just a start, and the money coming from the unassigned fund balance, so it doesn't have a tax impact to the residents. You put together too many warrant articles that do have a tax impact, now we're talking about going over the budget cap.
I get that, and I appreciate it, but I'm also balancing this with our conversation from 10 minutes ago, where we're trying to maintain an 8% balance in our unassigned, and yet now we have 3 articles here that are presented tonight that are taking directly from
Yep.
unassigned for 75,000. So how,
I hear you.
you know what I mean? So
And we're
how do we build it up while still meeting these
And
needs?
we're putting in 291,000, so.
Anything else on Article 8?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I'm just a little concerned about the vagueness of the wording. You know, it was verbally said, well, you know what, this is going to be a fund for an emergency if, you know, a boiler, furnace, a water heater, something like that major goes down, then they have this here, but then it turns into maintenance and repair, and, you know, as we went through the budget this year, the money that was approved at deliberative, that project hasn't even finished yet. They put in the same amount this year, and when pressed, you couldn't get a clear answer in terms of, you know, what their top priority project was for that particular funding. I would feel much better.
You're cutting out just a little bit, Mr. Taylor.
Oh, okay. I would feel a little more confident if projects went into the budget proposed, and you want to do this and make this for emergency purposes. I'm all for that. But I worry about building this up to 100,000. Just turns into another big trust fund that just will get used too vaguely. And I think after the last couple of years, we're not looking for vague.
Okay. Anything else on Article 8? All right, Article 9, police contract. Shall the town vote to approve the cost items for wage and related costs that have been included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the town of Litchfield and Council 93 of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which provides for the following increases in wages and benefits at the current staffing level, and further to raise and appropriate the sum of $42,012 for the current fiscal year. Such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. That is the longest sentence ever. Estimated 2024 tax rate impact, 3 cents. There's a breakdown below that of the cost for 2024, the cost of 2025, and the cost of 2026, which decreases about $3,000 each year.
That is correct. So I believe we have forwarded the relevant contract and tried to provide as much detail as we could on that. Over the life of the contract, it's 5, 4, and 4%. I was speaking earlier to there being some savings in this contract. So along with this contract was also MOU that was signed with the Board of Selectmen, allowing us to make the change to health insurance as of January 1st. So that was crucial because they had a contract that stated otherwise until July, and we would have had to offer dual plans, which would have been much more expensive for the town. The other thing that that agreement did was it allowed us to keep the buyout at the 2023 amount instead of it increasing 15% as the contract had previously stated. So that MOU is contingent upon this contract passing warrant. Overall, in the detail, the increase in total wages is approximately 28,591. There is some increase in uniform costs for 2024, which is, we have seen the cost of uniforms raised substantially. So that's about 6, as well as cleaning of those uniforms. And that's another 3,500. And then ultimately the savings for the health insurance is saving us a little over $10,000. So that's what gets you to that 42,012.
So this is current staffing or or we're not fully staffed.
Budgeted staff.
Budgeted staffing. And it's 40, with a 5%, 4%, 4%, it's 42,000, that captures everything.
In the first
I was
year.
expecting, I will say, I was expecting a bigger number, so I was pleasantly surprised. I wanted to confirm, it's 42,000.
After you take the savings from the health insurance. So if we hadn't had that savings from the health insurance, you're correct, it would have been, 52.
I was also happy to see the proposal for the health insurance buyout. I believe it's getting phased in. It's not where I'd like it to be. I'm gonna be very clear to all town-wide, so that nobody feels targeted town-wide, but it's a step, I feel, in like the right direction. So thank you for that being included as well.
So for employees hired after July 1, it does significantly decrease the buyout. For town unaffiliated employees, anyone hired after January 1st of this year, it significantly drops.
Like I said, it's not where I'd like it to be, but it's moving in the right direction.
Any other comments, questions on Article 9 police contract?
So what happens if it doesn't pass the warrant?
And that's a chance that we had to take. So if the contract doesn't pass, we're already locked in, and the union knows this, locked into insurance for the 2024 year. The POS plan was one of the plans that costs the town a significant amount of money. That's being phased out by the insurance agency, so they couldn't have had that anyways. But that buyout amount would go back to what it was. And we would owe the employees from January to June at the higher buyout rate, and employees after July 1 would be subject to that rate as well, the higher rate. So it is very important that the contract passes.
Do you have an estimated cost on how much
I think that's,
that would be?
It wouldn't be the entire 10, no, it would be just the buyout amount that would revert back. We could get it for you.
I think that would be good information for
Yeah.
the budget hearing, for deliberative to have and share. Other comments, questions on Article 9? Okay. Article 10, replacement of one police cruiser, to raise and appropriate the sum of $70,000 to purchase and equip one new police model cruiser. Selection and purchase of said vehicle to be the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen in their discretion, if determined to be necessary and in the best interest of the town. Purchase of said vehicle to be by competitive bidding, Estimated 2024 tax impact, 6 cents.
Those things just keep going up, huh?
It used to be, that's about what we've done before for
I
cruisers.
thought it was gonna be one that, actually.
I'm just disappointed it's a warrant article. It used to be in the budget. The fact that we raised the tax cap and we still can't fit it into the budget, I find this sad.
Actually, we can.
Technically, we
We
could.
can now, well, but then you can't, but you can't vote in favor of the contract.
That's a true
Right.
statement.
So, we submitted 2 plus, utility or emergency
Captain, yeah.
management type, to CIP. There's, 1 here in the warrant articles, and there's another being, purchased from surplus. And that is before $300,000 number that we just gave you. What we are finding as we are negotiating the one that would be purchased this month, we're finding that there may be better costing out there. Looking at buying a 2023 model for some significant savings, and trade-ins are looking better than they were. So that $70,000 in this warrant article is for the purchase. It may be lower than that if there's significant trade-in. We are constantly looking at the trade-in versus what may be recoverable through an auction. So we're always looking at that, but that's a conservative number for both the car and the fit-up costs and decommissioning of the old. So,
Did I just hear you say you're purchasing another vehicle with unassigned fund balance?
we are purchasing 1 vehicle currently from the budget.
From the budget?
Surplus.
Surplus,
yeah.
unassigned fund balance.
No, surplus.
Well, I
But it
call
doesn't go to
Wow.
unassigned until
Yeah.
after the selectmen have an opportunity to,
So the 300,000 additional money is actually like $370,000.
yes.
I think what
but
we
the-
need here is a list of what you're planning to encumber, right? What's that list of encumbrances
And the
you're
numbers keep
planning for
changing.
year end?
So the list of encumbrances will be submitted to the Board of Selectmen for their meeting next Thursday night, 21st.
So again, the surplus then is not 300,000, it's more than that.
The question is, does the surplus take into account end-of-year encumbrances?
So the surplus amount of 300,000 is what we expect December 31st.
After you
After the
spend other monies.
After, yes,
So
after
that's
the
what I'm saying, so that
selectmen.
300,000 right now is maybe sitting at 600,000. Or whatever number, I mean,
Correct.
right?
Yes, it
You
was,
got a big chunk of money right now that you're already like giving and you're spending elsewhere.
yes, so if, is
That-
it in the selectmen portal?
That's the question that I want is, what's the plan to spend that money and where's it going?
I think
Yes.
it's at the end of the fund.
It sounds like
I
the Board
think
of
it
Selectmen
is.
hasn't seen that yet.
It sounds like
They
it
haven't.
has, they just haven't voted on it yet.
So there was a
They've seen it.
There was a discussion
voted
Monday
yet.
night. There was a discussion Monday night, if you watch Monday night's Board of Selectmen. And I believe there was a document which I created, which was on their portal, that estimated what we wanted to expend from 2023.
Yeah, we had,
Surplus.
we had the voting machines, the new voting machines, earned time buyout, archaeological study, cruiser, the Newtown website, and the police records management is what we've discussed. We haven't voted on any of it, but
Right.
that's what was brought forward.
You know what the total dollar amount is? Well,
Got 248?
Yeah, it's about that.
Newtown website, that's exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
248,
240.
138.
additional to the 300, 248.
Yeah, 539 to start, 248, which leaves us about 291 to put into unassigned fund balance.
There's to Ms. Kleiner's point, if you go to bos.litchfieldnh.gov, it takes you to the information from their meeting on Monday.
Yep.
And about halfway down that page, you can see the document that she was referencing.
Thank you.
The only thing that will change is if we have to give them final numbers, any invoices, contracts, things of that sort, which will be voted on Thursday night.
So was the equipment that the fire department had requested in their budget this year?
Cameras.
The cameras, yep. Have you looked at those as encumbrances?
No. It was not, they didn't come forward and ask us to include those. Of course,
Okay.
we had a leadership meeting and we discussed as a group, what this list would entail.
Okay, and
So
they
it
just
was a
didn't
decision
volunteer
of all
at that
departments.
time. Okay, thank you.
While the 291,000, I think, is that what we said? Is great to have unassigned, you know, I'm also balancing that with other conversations that we've had when we've heard there's a very critical need to replace the asphalt at the transfer station and the highway department, and that quote came in at 300 grand, right? But we don't see a warrant article for that. So what's the plan to fix some of the other needs in town that are not being addressed by warrant articles?
So as far as the paving, of the transfer station, that's a large amount of money to hit the taxpayers with, to be quite frank.
Sure is.
And so we were trying to weigh, when we were bringing warrant articles forward for the board to consider, we were trying to be very thoughtful in what we thought were absolutely immediate needs. Not to say that the pavement isn't important, but like this year, we received, and that was also on Monday night's meeting, an additional check of highway block grant money from the state. And the selectmen have the right to put that aside into a trust, and perhaps we can look at using that and see if we get another one next year and use that for some of, to offset some of the paving costs. Perhaps we look to see if there's other ways that we can work that. We didn't consider that that was a need that we wanted to hit the Litchfield taxpayers with this year.
Thank you.
We usually use the block grant monies as part of our paving project money anyways. It used to be, we asked for 200 in the budget via warrant article, and you used to get 200,000 from the state as well, and we would always use the two of them. So any monies that come from the state is usually put into paving roads.
And that number's $56,869.97.
Yeah.
Which was extra.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Yep.
Was that also the thinking behind not including a warrant for an additional police officer?
Additional what?
Wasn't I thought that was originally in the budget and asked for an additional police officer. And then it was removed.
I think it was a part-time.
Part-time.
Was it
yeah.
part-time? So, thought it was removed and we were expecting to see a warrant for it, but
No,
That decision been changed?
the chief had thought it was something that was pulled out and he was gonna put it back in. But it was something that we pulled out, took out 2 part-timers to make a full-time position a couple of years ago. So it wasn't ever getting put back in. He was mistaken
Okay.
on that.
He was
so.
mistaken.
oh,
Yeah,
okay,
that's,
I understand. Thank you.
Anything else on Article 10?
Yeah, one question. How many cruisers did we acquire this year?
None.
None.
done.
So
In the last couple of years, we haven't bought it.
So the one that's being proposed, take out of the funds that are existing would be one.
Yes.
I thought one was purchased with unassigned fund balance last year or the year before.
No, it's been a couple of years since we
Not
bought
while
a
I've been
cruiser.
here.
No?
I think it was 2021 or 2022 we got a
22.
grant.
Well, you definitely have a 2023 model out there.
I remember one of
The
them
full
being-
black one's a
Well,
2023 model.
so we bought 3 admins, but for a frontline cruiser,
Yeah, the Tahoe, the all-black Tahoe is
Maybe,
2023.
I think it was Troy's last year that we did.
so
2022.
2022?
Yeah, I think so. It might have been a 23 model, but it would have been bought late in the year.
Do you use
Well,
some
that
of
makes
Because we've
sense.
never
If it was
bought
bought-
any
if it
since
was
Kim's
bought like in
No,
October
we've never.
2022.
Well, did you use some of
So
that
it would be a
ARPA
23.
funding or anything?
No, we didn't.
No.
Unassigned fund balance.
No.
So in addition to frontline cruisers, how many police vehicles did we purchase last year or this year?
None,
None. This,
We used to do 212,
yeah,
so we're behind.
right, they were cut last year.
last 2 years.
That's 2 years.
And I think the request originally was 3 cruisers.
Yeah, two
And we
cruisers.
talked-
Two
and then
cruisers
we-
and a utility vehicle.
Right, and then we kind of
Command
reduced it,
vehicle,
you know, would you consider one? So I think this is the one that's being considered on the warrant article.
Well, and another one they're buying. Right.
So how many?
Two, they're buying two, one from encumbered money and,
One on the warrant
and one on the warrant article.
For next year.
in 2024. Yes.
Yes. And
You can
they
look at
dropped
it
the.
as the one we didn't buy last year, we're buying from encumbered money, and then we're asking for ones to get it going again.
Right, so this would be number 2 then.
Yes.
Anything else on Article 10?
How many total vehicles do we have? 13 or how many?
So,
All
might be
all
right.
in, not just frontline cruisers, but all in.
all in with
you may be
the,
right.
there was
You-
13 with the trailers,
You've
right?
sent
With
us
2
this
trailers.
list. Yeah.
Yes.
So would we be fully
lot of cruisers we
retiring
got.
any of?
Officers on the same.
Yeah, if we're getting a new one from unassigned fund balance, are we retiring any, is it gonna be like a swap out, or is it just something's getting demoted again?
One was
So-
decommissioned, right?
We usually
So
retire
what,
them.
the
That's what I
one that
thought.
we're looking at for buying
Mhm.
this month, there'll be a trade-in
Okay,
of the oldest
so we're
car.
not increasing the fleet size.
We're not increasing the fleet.
Can we trade in the one that's sitting at Edwards?
The one, so,
That's traffic
Oh,
control.
how do we know? They all look the same.
so the other thing that will happen is one of the oldest cars that's a detail, that's used for detail, will most likely get auctioned off
Cycles, yeah.
with it, or traded in, either this month's car or that month, or the 2024 car. And the one that is at Edwards is actually, the car that we were speaking at a few meetings ago, where we said there's about a $2,000 fix. Looking at the car, there was a new transmission in that car, so we believe it's worth it to put the money into fixing the car and moving that to a detail,
Okay.
So
moving it
I
down.
found the memo from late September, early October. There are 13 total vehicles, but 2 of those are trailers. One's a storage trailer and the other is an OHRV trailer, currently used by the Conservation Committee. So, do the math, there's 11 vehicles.
So, just a quick question. It's up to the selectmen, like, what they're gonna, what type of vehicle they're gonna purchase. You'll put out the bid or whatever. Have you ever considered something that's not American? I know these things are like, you know, they run all the time and everything else, but they don't get much mileage on them.
Tesla?
No.
What's that?
Didn't they just recall a
Time
bunch
for a
of those?
Tesla?
No.
Not a Tesla, but a Fiat.
No.
That new Cybertruck
Yeah.
looks pretty tough.
Personally, I'd be against buying something that's not American.
Like, much is made here, but, I mean, foreign vehicles though will last forever, for the most part. These things don't last for
See
anything.
just as many of them in the junkyard, so.
Well,
I
and
think
the
it
other
is.
thing is, does it have to be a large SUV? I mean, other towns are using, you know, believe it or not, I saw a Prius in Wolfboro. Amherst, I see Ford Taurus. I see Ford Taurus. Yes,
Taurus
sedans.
used to be a frontline car for
Ah,
police.
yes.
So I mean, if that is a way of cutting the,
The state's going bigger right now, so, if you look what the troopers are going into.
We've had that argument years ago.
yeah, you know,
I mean, when we had cars and we switched to Explorers and the Explorers to the Tahoes, right?
but do we always have to buy a large SUV?
Agree.
Isn't there an opportunity for, you know?
All
other
the admin
to be purchased
vehicles
for
are
different
Traverses.
purposes,
Right,
not
can we have,
smaller,
can we have
not
3 or
just
4
frontline.
SUVs and, yeah,
The
different
Prius would
purposes.
fit in the garage.
You know,
at least.
frontline,
You could park the Prius in the
Good
top.
Sally Port.
Fit 2 of them
They
in
could
there,
open
right?
the
Prius,
doors.
just put some blue lights on them, they could be the traffic patrol.
yeah, traffic
Yeah,
control
but
can be done by
segues, man,
anybody
that's
with blue
weather.
lights, right?
I just think looking at something that's not a Ford or a Chevy, you might be better off and they'll last you longer.
I can't say that I've,
get some
I've
Harleys.
heard the police department talk about that,
Yeah.
either foreign or smaller cars.
Motorcycle brigade, right.
But
I do that.
I do know that as far as your comment about the state, the car that we're looking at, currently is off of the state bid, so it's exactly the same car.
They're getting bigger. I mean, they're
Yeah.
getting away from the cruisers right now and going more to the larger vehicles.
Anything else on Article 10 this evening? All right, Article 11, addition of full-time highway worker. To see if the town will vote to hire a full-time highway employee effective 1 April 2024 at an estimated annual salary and related cost of $81,294.51, and further to vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $48,971 for wages and benefits for the periods of April 1, 2024 to December 31, 2024. Estimated 2024 tax impact is 4 cents. There's a table below that that shows the breakdown of wages, benefits for 24 as well as 25. And then I know Ms. Kleiner is going to explain this, but there's below that in italics that shows kind of less library, cemetery, and seasonal. I'm thinking that's where this is offset by current budget. Is that correct?
You are correct.
I'll let you explain it better.
So, the formulation of this warrant article, serves many purposes. The highway department is in need of additional staff. So the requests that have come into the highway department for assistance, with recreation or conservation, cemeteries, all of our other boards and commissions, those requests come in every day, and the highway department tries to assist as much as they can. Having said that, the requirements for stormwater, which is an item that highway handles almost alone, those demands have gone up significantly. So when you're looking at not only the requirements by the EPA and DES for the MS4 permit, which are required, those take a significant amount of time, as does the plowing and the maintenance of our grounds. Earlier this spring, the cemetery trustees came forward, and they were talking about getting a contract for the maintenance on the cemeteries. And so they wanted to go out for an RFP, and we did that. Looking at the bids that came in that were everywhere from 12,900 to 20,000, we started in some conversations on whether we could add an additional worker to the highway department and offset some of that cost by incurring that work, taking that work. And highway thought they could. Highway also we had discussions with the library, about looking at that work. And the other part of this is the seasonal line within the highway budget. That worker would assume that work as well. So we're taking existing work and moving it in-house and offsetting that cost, the cost of a new employee. That was the thought process.
And from what I also understand, it will help with the services that they can provide, because there's a lot of things that they can't do with only one person present.
That is
right?
true.
So it's a huge safety benefit.
So we had quite a bit of discussion about not only really the qualifications of this position, but can this position have some supervisory experience, and also some mechanical experience. So, right now, a lot of the work on our trucks is done by, our road agent. Having another person that has some qualifications in that area would be phenomenal. So this person, you'll see the wage is a little higher. We are looking for a more experienced, person to also give the road agent some supervisory backup.
So, a couple questions. On the health insurance on this, is that just estimated? Is that like the top plan?
The
if they
family
take it?
plan.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes. Worst case scenario.
And the other thing is, and it must be legally as to why it's written this way, but this article is written the same as the librarian, or the library one, as far as how they raise the funds for this year and next year.
Yes, but there's not two bolded numbers.
Well, there's, all right.
This
See
one's,
that the 110,000 isn't in the article language, it's just in the table below.
this one's actually different though, because I think it took me a minute to read it. So the 81,000 is actually the total cost for 2024. But then what's bolded there, the 48,971, is the 81,000 less the 32 that you subtract from library, cemetery, and seasonal.
It should almost be like a subtotal. But my question similar to that is, we're reassigning current funding to help offset. But then in 2025, it looks like, are we reestablishing that money into those prior ones?
No,
So it's really not 110 in additional funding. It's still an offset on money we would already be spending. So that's what it makes it look like all of a sudden, oh my goodness, 2025 is crazy. But in 2025, we would still have library maintenance, we'd still have cemetery expenses, we'd still have seasonal.
Yeah,
I know, I wrestled with that myself, but legally, we can't put the money to show on a budget we haven't even created. So I agree with you wholeheartedly, I'd love to show that, but you can only show the increase to the highway budget in that next step.
Yeah, so
second
it's
year.
110 less $32,000.
Right, yeah, it seems like a massive jump, like, oh my gosh. Until you realize that we'd still have to pay for seasonal.
So do you put the bottom line here at the 81,294?
That's what
You
you
remove
do.
the 48,97 altogether, you remove the negatives, and then in your comments, you describe how the offsetting costs will be $32,000 for the year.
Or you just put a subtotal underneath Medicare and say less the funds and then apply it against for a subtotal.
Yeah, I like that better.
Because that's how I would, my budgets would have that, like, this is what my cost is, oh, here are my other things that offset it, boom, this is where I was, this is where I became, look how awesome I am, I went from 81,000 to 49, whoa.
I think
But I think you could put an asterisk maybe saying, hey, we don't know what the cost would be, but,
Yeah, so subtotals under 2024 and 2025 up under Medicare.
Well, 2025, you wouldn't be carrying those negatives in the budget again.
Right,
right, but you still would have, but what I'm saying is, you were not adding realistically, you're not proposing to add 110,000 to 2025, realistically. That's not what the ad is. The ad is truly that position minus money we're already gonna spend.
70.
Subtotal under both columns with explanation below.
No.
I think that's.
I mean, even if you can't put it, you could just say like, no, we would have to spend, so monies would be offset by whatever, because it's not true. Because it looks like you're adding 49,000 in 2024 and adding 110 in 2025, and that's not a true representation
Well, I
of
think
this
you'd have to wait
budget.
till 2025 too, and find out whether or not the cemetery does go down 14,000, seasonal goes down 15,000.
Well, I was just gonna say, right, so are we offsetting the operating budget by $32,000 in 2020?
Well, I guess that's the thing, so the question is,
So-
to that point then, like, then you're saying you are adding 110 and restoring the other ones. But if that's not the intent, then you're not truly adding.
10, but you are adding the 110, are you actually gonna take away the 32?
so I think Mr. Cutter asked a great question because, we're only raising and appropriating enough money to fund the position with the use of this money.
Yeah, okay.
So we have to use this money or not hire the
So the
position.
48,971, and then you're gonna transfer the money out of these lines to cover that salary, if it gets approved.
Or
probably
bill
not.
his time to those lines.
Yeah, we'd have to in some way, shape, or form, but,
Time card adjustment,
Make it clean if
Yeah.
you transfer it out, yeah.
but yeah.
Switching.
And
to
then
sta-
in 2020, sorry, just to finish the thought,
No,
and
go
then in
ahead.
2025, then we wouldn't expect to, those lines would be zero, because we'd have the new position.
correct,
Right.
right.
But my whole point is, like, again, it artificially looks like you're increasing it by higher.
That's good. This is gonna be a aside, so.
Mr. Hayes?
Yeah, so the stormwater project, is that likely to continue at the same pace, or will it intensify, or will it begin to drop off, requiring less personnel, less time?
Excellent question. Bad news is,
And we're
It-
mapping right now, right?
we're mapping. So the asset system that we're doing is its own work. And that will, to some extent, we're getting preliminary baseline data. So that will be there and we'll only need to maintain that. So that project in itself, there will be some, reduction. Offset by, in 2017, there was an additional permit requirements that were filed. And we are now just going through to see how those are going to require additional work that hasn't even been done in the past.
And once we address that, there'll be more requests coming in, probably.
Yes, unfortunately, we have a large MS4 area.
And the state's requiring this and not funding it at all,
Yeah,
It's
well, it's
federal.
the EPA,
EPA,
yeah,
through the state.
through the state. And yes, unfunded grant.
Shocker.
Anything else on Article 11?
I do have one comment on this one. I
Yep.
applaud Mr. Leary for, getting into the process, things like the plow truck where it is estimated 2024 tax rate impact, and then giving what it's going to be moving forward. I just would love to see some consistency. If I take a look at the librarian, you know what, that's gonna go up in 2025, but you're selling it to the taxpayers as a cent. This one here, same thing, there's gonna be a significant increase, and you're selling it to the taxpayers as it's only 4 cents. I don't like the tax impact of only a partial year being the only thing that's shown, and that's where, you know what, again, I applaud Mr. Leary, he's done a great job as far as making sure that when it goes to a full year, tell me what it's gonna cost me. I would love to see this, if possible, across the board on all warrants.
Yeah,
Right.
annualized.
Are you able to, you meant on the plow truck lease, you have that estimated tax impact of 2025. You said you were waiting for legal, whether you could have that or not. If legal says that is acceptable for that one, then could you not do it for these other ones? For example, the library, the full-time highway worker, right? 2024 is 4 cents, 2025 for highway worker is 7 cents, 6 cents, whatever it is.
Well, so with the highway worker, I mean, we can estimate it based on, the information we have now, meaning in the assessments, that we have now. But then when you get to this highway worker, so are we going to estimate the tax impact of the 110, but to Carrie's point, you've had savings that we're not going to put in the budget? Do we reduce that? I think
you
it's
have
a
to
little
put it for
bit
the
more
full-
difficult
I think
with
you have
this
to put it for
one.
the full dollar amount, because that's what you know right now until it's approved.
Right.
So significantly, the residents could see it's an estimated tax impact of 4 cents and an estimated tax impact of 2025 of 7 cents, but most likely it's not that 7 cents.
Most
because
likely
you-
it'll be like 6 cents.
Right.
Right.
But I guess the thing would be, like, the tax impact is still going to be, look, there's a budget line item that is going to be in for $110,163. So just because now we're reducing other line items, like the library, the cemetery, and seasonal, I just don't like the lack of transparency of, look, for this particular person, how much is it going to cost? And like, if you take this one out of the equation, I'll say the same thing about the library, for example. Like, what, I wanna know what the tax impact is, the difference between 10 and 14.
Okay.
So I guess we have to get legal's opinion on that and determine if that's something.
For the board to decide, it's
the
not for
board
the
of
budget
Sel-
committee to
right,
decide.
if the board, yeah. Well, legal would have to say it was okay, and then the board of selectmen would have to want to put it on there.
So warrant articles are very prescriptive by, the Department of Revenue, on what you can actually include in the body of the warrant. The other question that we were asked, which I'm not sure that there's as much, but I've asked it anyways, I was asked to see if we could include the vote of the, oh, I'm sorry, that's supposed to say library and cemetery. Just realized that.
So the first one,
Good idea.
the
If
first one-
possible, I think that's a good idea, because it shows that they support the withdrawal from their accounts.
is the one, which one's already voted on it? Cemetery?
The cemetery.
Cemetery's the 300, okay. Anything else on Article 11? All right, last article this
Well,
evening.
actually, no, I'm sorry, going back to that other one. Wouldn't you have to have a vote by the library? Because the Board of Selectmen can't reduce their budget, right? It's a pass-through. They would have to somehow signify agreement with it.
Good point, yes. We couldn't do it unless the library trustees agreed with it.
Good point.
Agreed with, because they have total control over who maintains their ground, as does the cemetery trustees.
Right.
By statute, they have total control.
So will we at least have them on record prior to this? Because I would be uncomfortable voting yes if they haven't gone on record saying we'd support that reduction in our budget, because the Board of Selectmen can't force, if it goes through without their approval, the Board of Selectmen can't make that reduction, regardless of what it says, because it's a pass-through. So to make sure that we actually have the library on record saying, no, we agree with this plan,
We vote.
would be great.
Yes.
Before January
so-
4th.
Before January 4th, yes, sir.
All right. Anything else? Article 12, last one this evening. Is it,
This has to be reviewed by the budget committee.
There's no
But
cost.
it's so exciting.
there is no tax impact.
It is very exciting until I saw
Today?
did you see it?
Yeah.
With
The news?
Rates? January
Yeah.
1st.
Yes. So,
Where's the rate? come from?
I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and read it.
Eversource
We don't have any-
is proposing to drop their rates from 12 to 8 cents.
15%.
Oh, well, it explains why mine gave me like a rate of like 9. Well, I'll have to call them and say, hey, no.
Yeah.
So Article 12 draft, Litchfield Community Power, to see if the town will vote to adopt the Litchfield Community Power Plan,
You want
which
12?
authorizes, 12, sorry. Did I say 13?
I have the old one, because 12 is Elections Expendable Trust.
We don't have that one on ours.
We do not.
and that one's not being brought forward, until next year.
Article 12, draft Litchfield Community Power, to see if the town will vote to adopt the Litchfield Community Power Plan, which authorizes the select board to develop and implement Litchfield Community Power as described therein pursuant to RSA 53E:7. The program will provide a new default electric supply and new renewable energy supply options for customers in Litchfield. No cost to the town budget, no obligation to participate. Customers can opt out at any time and return to utility default service. Majority vote required. There you go. I'll let you add any other context you want. But there's really,
So-
no tax impact or budget impact, so not anything we would vote on.
Correct, it's, this is a been adopted by many communities throughout the state. This is to lower the cost of electricity for residents. So the first year, when the electric rates were up around 20 cents, there were 4 towns, Keene, Swansea, Marlborough, and Wilton, that actually got down to rates just a little bit over 12 for their residents. So the thought of it, the basic premise is you are pulling everyone together, so there's greater purchase power because we are all the residents are operating as one entity. We are working with Standard Power, and the Board of Selectmen appointed a Litchfield Energy Committee to work with Standard Power for the last 4 or 5 months to develop the plan. There were surveys that were circulated, and we've held 2 public hearings. The committee approved the plan last night, and it will go to the Board of Selectmen on the 21st. But it is to not only reduce the rates, but it will also offer residents different tiers of renewable energy if they are so interested. So.
Great, thank you.
My only thing on the warrant is that I feel like, is this like standard, verbiage from Standard Power?
It is.
Because it says there's no obligation to participate and customers can opt out at any time, which is true.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really make clear that you will be opted in unless you opt out. Is there any way we can add something? If you are,
Have to be opted. I mean, you're not gonna be mandated.
it's not
to
how
opt
the
in.
Yeah, it
law
doesn't
was
say
written.
opt-in, yeah.
It's
So if
the
I have a
RSA.
contract with somebody else, they're gonna cancel my contract?
If
with
you.
No.
No.
If you have a contract with someone else, you are not eligible.
But if you're just with Standard Eversource, you would be opted in.
You
Is that
you
correct?
by state law, it is an opt-out program. So you are
That's
All right, that
interesting.
changes it.
So
you
you're
are
automatically
enrolled
opted
and
in.
you can opt out.
Yeah.
So I'm fully in support of the warrant. I just feel like that could be clearer.
So if it passes, everyone who doesn't have a contract with someone else automatically goes into this?
Or you don't generate power and sell power back to the grid. So there are some of those folks that should talk to Standard Power before they, but yes, the program, it's that way by state law.
So there's no other way to opt in then? How do you, if I am on another supplier, which I am, right? How do I opt into this program if I'm already in a contract with another supplier?
You have
I'd
to wait until the contract ends.
Or drop that supplier. So the only way to opt in is if on my Eversource bill, it shows Eversource as the supplier. That's it.
And you're automatically opted in.
Then you're automatically opted
Or
in.
you break
Yeah.
your current contract.
Right. Well, some contracts you
Which-
can break for no cost.
Right, they
I
say,
mean, it's,
yeah, there's no cancellation fee. That's mine.
yeah, mine too, yeah.
Yeah, but any month, after the meter read date, you can opt in or out, or, you know, and the reason being is so the Eversource rate fluctuates twice a year, right? They buy twice a year. And so it could be ours is a 24-month plan and ours stays the same, and for some reason Eversource gets a lower rate, then maybe it makes sense for you to opt out. But they have seen with these plans that over the course of whatever time period the town plan goes, there's significant savings over the Eversource rate.
I do,
It's a good program, I just.
right.
And there's a lot of
Any surprises?
conversation, there's several ways of notifying people, that's all prescribed. You have to have public hearings. We won't know until this warrant article passes. Then we have to give a significant amount of notification to our residents, telling them we will be going out to bid, or Standard Power will be going out to bid for us. That does not necessarily mean that the rate that they get will be what the town wants to settle with, and we certainly have the option to say, nope, that's not good for us, and then they wait and goes out the next bid. You know, they may bid 2 months later.
Is that the Board of Selectmen that says no, hold off on the?
It is the Board of Selectmen, yeah. The Energy Committee is only, a recommendation to the board is.
Okay.
I do agree with Ms. Stevens, though. I think the way it's written, it's not clear that I'm automatically opted in.
Not at all, yeah, that's right.
Like you say, customers are automatically opted in, but can opt out at
Yeah.
any time.
Yeah, yeah, if you modify that next to last sentence.
It's more than that, though. You're automatically opted in if.
They have a source.
Yeah.
Right.
Unless included but covered by another contract, you are automatically opted in. But then again, who knows how much leeway they have if the state says this is how it shall be.
Well, we don't vote on this one, but I think we've offered our 2 cents. All right, that's the end of review of the town warrant articles. So, as a reminder, we will vote on these on Thursday, January 4th.
Well, I believe Mrs. Kleiner has something she wants to share.
Oh.
That we've been working on.
Mrs. Kleiner.
So, we are, working on what will hopefully develop into another warrant article, for town meeting. And it would not have an impact budget-wise. We, about 8 months ago, went out and contracted with Weston and Sampson for a water feasibility study. A study to investigate the purchase of the Pennachuck infrastructure. And at least preliminary, it shows significant savings for the town to do that.
Over what duration?
So,
What's the payback period?
actually, the savings are pretty much immediate.
Oh, yeah.
Immediate for the Litchfield, taxpayers, or water ratepayers, I should say. This requires an enterprise fund, and so an enterprise fund is separate, really, from the budget, because an enterprise fund, the water ratepayers pay in, and all the expenses are paid out from that fund. So, the only item that may be necessary, it still wouldn't be a budget impact, but we would bond. And we'd bond for not only the cost of the infrastructure, but for startup costs, to cover us for startup costs. There would, if there was an employee, a billing employee, that employee would be paid from the fund, from the enterprise fund. I will tell you that Pennachuck, as of November 28th, just filed a rate increase.
Of course you did.
Yeah. And we are petitioning to intervene, into
Why don't
that
they
rate
increase
case.
everybody else until they're up to our rate?
How much was the rate increase?
24.
4%?
Do they believe in anything under a quarter?
So you know, I think that makes this even more of a reason that we should really look into this. And, you know, Hudson did it many
Just-
years ago.
What kind of order of magnitude are we looking at bonding? No, 'cause it sounds like if we save money, but we're still gonna be.
That's it?
It's still
All
gonna
the
be a
infrastructure?
liability.
So it's
And
not as,
startup.
Wow.
it's not as much as you think because, and this is what a lot of people didn't quite realize, and as this flushed out and as other towns, so there are other towns that have done these studies. Londonderry just did one, and I understand there's a couple others that are looking into it. Any infrastructure that was added by Saint Gobain money, we don't have to pay for. Zero. Cost Pennachuck zero.
Or gifted, right?
Yeah, or gifted,
Developers.
or developers
Yeah.
paid for it.
So all the new developments.
What about, so
What
my,
you guys would really love is the money it saves you on fire hydrants.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, where's Mr. Taylor's hydrants and stuff? But, right, but
I'm sure he's doing cartwheels right now.
the other thing to consider here, right, if you have a water main break, that's on us as a town to
That's what
fix.
my concern
Right,
is.
we're gonna need new equipment, we're gonna need new people, we're gonna need a department to manage this.
No, so what, the way that we've looked at it, at least in the feasibility study, is to do something very similar to what Hudson does and to contract
Okay.
with, an agency who, of course, has the expertise and the equipment, to do these things. And then you'd actually still have Pennachuck water because you'd actually enter into a commercial agreement, for the water at a,
so will we do an analysis of the aging of the pipes? Cause
they
I-
have done that.
All
We
right, 'cause
actually
my
have a
con-
new system. We have a fairly new
certain
system.
parts are new. I just think that most of my rusty water is the result of Hudson and all the water flushing through and getting my pipes all gross.
So if we,
Can't do anything about
go ahead,
Hudson.
finish, go ahead.
No, but the aging of the pipes would be a concern. Like our development is fairly. I don't know how long these pipes are gonna last under the ground and freeze thaw cycles.
Actually, they have reported that it is a system in great shape.
Okay.
That's what the study
I'd
shows.
be interested to
but-
see I'd be interested to see the cost differences, right? And, I mean, if we're still buying water from Pennachuck, we're still in a contract with Pennachuck, we're still subject to Pennachuck increases. It's just we're managing that at a town instead of a resident level.
No. So, there's a much different rate between a residential customer buying water and a commercial. So Hudson has a commercial contract to buy Pennachuck water. It's like talking 7 cents and 2 cents, and it's a wide difference.
Yeah, isn't there's like $1 and ours is like almost 8?
Yeah,
Kind of ridiculous.
yeah.
So you mentioned like having to contract services. Would that be something that then would have to be in a future budget?
No, it would be out of the enterprise
Would
fund,
be out of the fund?
yeah.
So who would do we need like a board of directors? Like what sits on, how do we manage that?
Great question, yes. The board would have to create a board of directors that would manage the fund.
Litchfield Water District.
And those would be
Similar to
appointed
that,
by the
yes.
board of selectmen, not subject to
Election.
elections or public feedback.
So when I pay my water bill, who do I pay?
Board of Selectmen.
Oh, the water district, the Litchfield Water,
Bigger.
the Litchfield Water District.
Yeah.
And,
But I think one of the big things that we saw when we just had a presentation with them was that almost immediately, everybody would see a reduction in the water bill. It could be as little as $200 a year, but some people might see quite significantly
I
more.
don't know, I have teenagers
I
who
pay
shower.
$200 a month for my water. It's ridiculous.
and,
Don't even
I
talk
mean,
about the summer.
Right, exactly.
and that was before the rate increase that was
They then
just
retroactive.
submitted. They have also for 2025, Pennachuck has given notice that they are looking to combine Pennachuck East, and Pittsfield and Aggie Junk. we don't know what that means exactly.
Right, they're
Um,
shutting their debt down to
to-
us.
To their right, yeah, to their rates. There's very little information that's been, shared other than the notice of intent. But significantly, people that are Pennachuck,
So does Pennachuck
Nashua.
resist? Like, if we have a statement of intent, do we have, are we gonna go to court over this? Or are they gonna fight us on it? Or is this just something, we're gonna buy you, suck it up? Or like, how does it work? Like, are we setting ourselves up for a legal battle?
And then
no,
Yeah, eminent domain.
the
Like,
town has the right to purchase.
okay.
Now, the great question was, hydrants. So, there's savings there, but then there's a reduction in revenue because Pennachuck pays taxes. And Pennachuck won't pay taxes because Pennachuck won't own. So,
What's the
there's some
difference?
offset
What's the
there.
difference
Yeah.
between that now? Do you know?
So
we pay more than
hydrants are
revenue.
like four
Oh, I'm sure. Oh, I'm sure. I'm just.
something and,
Yeah.
They're 3 times what Manchester charges us.
yeah, I mean, it's still a significant savings.
In the last presentation, we had our legal here, she's sitting in Mr. Hayes's chair, and she was asked if, given the presentation that was just given, if she saw any downside at all to the town, and she said none whatsoever. So,
So this is, so will the Board of Selectmen look at this warrant article next week?
No,
No.
I mean, this is a significant amount of work, to try to get the bonding and there's, like, the schools now, there's only twice a year you can,
Bond banks.
bond
Yep.
bank, so there's a lot of work here to go through over the next couple months.
You're gonna have a bond hearing?
Oh,
yes.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
There has to be a bond vote. You have to
Yep.
apply for the bond. You have to have a bond
So is
sale.
it separate from the warrant article then? Or is it separate from the March ballot? Or does it go
So,
on the March ballot? Or
the,
the following year?
They have all the bond
you'd
information.
still have to have a warrant article because the Board of Selectmen cannot purchase or sell land. So they could not purchase the Pennachuck system without a warrant of the
Residents can.
residents, yeah.
So are we thinking March 2025 then?
No,
Potentially a special election?
we are trying very hard to get everything together and have enough information for this warrant.
Well, if my
Don't-
rates are going up 25%, I appreciate the opportunity for me to work on getting this ready for March.
Would you,
Come on in.
not to stress you out anymore, but would you have to have you'd have to have this at February 4th deliberative, right?
Correct. Yes.
That's kind of your drop dead.
Get working.
My only other question, right, in thinking about how a vote would go on this, right, is how many, do we even know how many, or what the percentages of the town that's on a well versus on Pennachuck?
Not more than half is on Pennachuck now.
2,591 have Pennachuck water.
I wanna say it was like 60-some%.
Houses?
So about 2/3.
Yeah, because if I have a,
2,500.
if I have a well,
Customers.
right, what's my incentive to vote for this?
I
have
thought the
a
well.
Fire hydrants.
Fire hydrants.
You're still paying for fire hydrants.
I have a
Well,
well.
Okay.
Are
So-
well
I
users
have a well. I
paying
plan on
in,
voting
well
for it.
users are not paying into this fund.
No.
So I don't
No.
think it affects well
Pipes are rotten.
users.
No,
Are
but
the
to his
hydrants still in
point-
the budget then?
Well, then they can blanket.
I'm sorry?
Would fire hydrants still be in the operating budget and then
We'd bill
the-
ourselves.
it sounds to me, and maybe I'm wrong, that this enterprise fund is similar to this community power, where it's only the people that are buying the water that are paying for it. So then, would the hydrants, or is that, maybe that hasn't been decided yet, are hydrants coming out of the enterprise fund or the
We'd
operating
be
budget?
paying ourselves,
It'd be in the operating budget,
Right.
we'd bill ourselves.
yeah.
So
But
everybody would.
it would only be billing the users on the water. They wouldn't be billing well users, which are being billed
But-
right now for the fire hydrants.
But everybody gets paid for that, yeah, everybody gets
Everybody
billed
pays for
through their
fire
property
hydrants.
taxes.
Correct.
That's right. So that's my question. Is the fire hydrants then, are they continue to be paid for through taxes
Yes.
So that would be separate from this enterprise.
The town would be the user and pay the fee to
Hopefully,
ourselves.
the fire hydrants would be at a reduced rate.
Correct. So,
Right.
Right.
back to your question.
I'm just wondering who's paying for what piece. It's,
So, think of it as the Litchfield Water District billing the town for the hydrants at a much significant difference,
okay.
Not
right?
500.
So that's,
So-
so that's still in the operating budget.
It's in the operating budget at a much lower place, but we're paying ourselves too.
Right, okay.
Because there'll be some revenue that will be
But it-
generated, by the water district.
Right.
That will flow into the town.
I think you raise a good point, right? I'm on a well, so my benefit is understanding how is this going to impact the overall town budget and taxes that I pay, you know, for the fire hydrant switch,
So,
right?
so it will reduce both well users' taxes
Right.
and water bills. People on a water bill, it'll reduce their bill as well.
Right, but for
Reduce
you on a
everyone's
well,
taxes.
the really only benefit is the hydrant, otherwise,
Correct.
you're having to take a look at what's the best interest of the town.
Correct.
But for you financially, and personally, there's no impact.
Correct. Exactly.
So blanket,
Town doesn't turn around and give money back based on the savings. Let's say the new cost is 100 instead of 500,000. If like 300,000 doesn't go back to the taxpayers, you're not getting the well people to buy in.
Right, but we're also gonna have a bond payment for however many years at $11 million.
But the bond payment comes from the enterprise fund, not from the town.
you
So the bond payment is
Doesn't
irrelevant,
impact
True.
me.
is irrelevant to the
All the
water.
people who are paying into that fund.
All
Right.
yeah, it's part of your monthly bill.
They're
And,
gonna do another presentation, they said.
and you wanna be careful, I mean, if you have a well, so, I mean, we're seeing this now. PFAS are a moving object. So Bedford, for instance, you know, significantly it has shifted and there are new, well owners that are now having to sign up in St. Gobain. You know, Londonderry has areas. So because you are a well user now that has not been impacted, doesn't mean you won't
We have ours tested almost every year.
in the future. Very moving target, unfortunately.
Good information.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions?
No,
Just thank
that's
you for
exciting.
looking into
Very
it.
exciting.
Yeah.
All right. Any other surprise warrant articles? Was a
Not
good one.
enough for one night?
That's pretty good.
In all honesty, I did mention this to Mr. Sun after the last meeting. We had a
Yes.
little discussion about it, but.
Kept it under my hat.
No, I think it's, like, if you look at the bill that I get on a monthly basis, Penachuk charges me when we fight them on anything anyway, so if I'm gonna pay somebody's legal fees or bond payments, at least we're paying it to ourselves. Because right now, every time we argue Penachuk and we file a complaint, a legal fee gets added to my bill to recoup the legal fees. What other industry do you get to actually charge and not write it off as cost of doing business? I think it's ridiculous.
And I think it's also important to note that Hudson, since they bought theirs some 20 years ago, have not had a rate increase
Yeah.
In 20 years.
in 20 years.
Keep that in mind, Mr. Board of Selectmen.
Hey, I'm on a well and I'm all for this because I hear people complain all the time about the cost of the hydrants, the cost of their water. So I think it's a good thing for the town.
It is a good thing.
Doesn't impact me, but it's a good thing for the town, so.
But even being on a well, you're still gonna benefit in a reduced cost in your taxes from the fire hydrant.
Correct. It's a big selling, like, I think,
Which I don't have one of those in front of my house either. Close to a mile away.
No, but if you need one, they'll
But this,
use that
Thanks for the
anchor
reminder.
truck.
but this
Pump it from the
requires
river.
supermajority, right? Because it'd be
I would
one
pump
vote.
it out of the swale.
And I
it
will,
just
I
said
have to
one
say,
Or is it supermajority? Oh,
I think
it's
it's
the bond.
2/3.
Or 60%.
This
Yeah.
would be a bond, so it'd be a
Yes.
supermajority.
Yeah.
I have to say though, I mean, since I've been here, I've had a number of residents that have come in to, you know,
Express
speak,
their-
complain about their water bill.
It's not even
And
good water.
I feel greatly for the residents that have had wells. It became contaminated. So great, Saint Gobain picks up the cost of laying pipe and up to their, and then they've got a water bill.
Yep.
All of a sudden, they, you know, never budgeted, never estimated for. I feel.
It's a classic screw job.
Well, I'm just, the number is much more reasonable than I had anticipated. I was thinking it would be much higher than that, so.
So did we.
So I'm glad to hear that it's not as scary of a number. It's a big number. I mean, it'll go on our liabilities side, but it's not as prohibitive as I thought it would be. And thank you for doing all the research,
Yeah.
because I do dread seeing that notification of rate increase and how much my rate has doubled, more than doubled, quadrupled, quintupled since I bought my house. So it's like,
I have to say, I'm shocked. I mean, I live across the river, but, so I'm Pennachuck,
mhm.
which is much lower than Pennachuck East.
We're probably subsidizing you, so you're welcome.
During
Alright.
summer months, my bill can be $1,000 a month easy. Just for
See, I don't care about my water, my grass that
What
much.
do you drain your pool every week?
It's got a nice green grass, like.
All right,
No.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I do have one overall question.
Yes,
Warrant article.
Mr. Taylor.
Any idea as to, can, if the budget committee so chose, vote to approve all of these and still
Yes.
stay under the tax cap?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I actually did that math earlier. So based on Mr. Taylor's question, I think he was cutting out there a little bit, is what warrant articles would the budget committee be able to support and still stay under the current tax cap? So based on my math, I heard Ms. Kleiner say we are $99,732 currently under the tax cap. If you look at the first 4 articles that have a tax impact, which is the, give me just a second, sorry. That's the Health and Human Services, that is the plow truck. Wait a minute, I think I forgot the plow, no, the plow truck was not included in that, sorry. The library, the property reevaluation, and then the police. Those 4 put us at 100.
Not the
Not
property.
the property.
Property.
I'm sorry, that was my error.
Not
All
property.
right, well then I gotta redo my math here. The first 3 put us at 75, is a total of $75,000. So we would be about $24,000, it doesn't, under the tax cap. That would leave the last 2 of, the cruiser and the highway worker, that total about 118,000, the 2 of them together. So the total cost of these, now I gotta back out the 25K, is about $193,000, and we're currently 99 under. Does that answer your question, Mr. Taylor?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I had the.
Again, I would argue that some of these that they're planning to use unassigned fund balance for probably should be, we should probably be asking the taxpayers to fund them instead of using unassigned fund balance.
That would certainly change how we would be able to support some of those as well.
I agree, but that's not for this board to make the decision.
I mean, you could always look at open up the budget and see if there's some places you'd be willing to take a reduction to help offset it. That is an option.
All right, anything else on the warrant articles this evening? All right, back to our agenda. Town business, anything else for Mr. Leary, Ms. Kleiner, or Ms. White this evening? Any general updates?
I think we hit everything, other than the pavilion has been delivered outside and it's almost assembled.
Nice.
In record time.
Yeah. So, looks nice.
Any questions for the town this evening?
Took notes from it.
At no tax impact.
What was that? No, at no tax impact, yeah.
Yep.
There were,
We've had a number of questions.
Oh, yeah.
there were a handful of follow-up questions we have from the warrant articles, right? And I
Yes,
know
there are.
You've captured those.
I have.
Diligent, thank you. All right, school business. Mr. Cutter, updates from the school.
Just as a reminder to the board, just a quick program change. I know we announced this at our last budget committee meeting, but the school board will be meeting next Thursday, not Wednesday. This will be the 21st. We'll be meeting at 5:30 at the fire station because there'll be a Board of Selectmen meeting here in this room, so we're at the fire station next Thursday. There are going to be a number of key items that the board's going to be talking about. Warrant articles are certainly a part of them. So if there's interest, please come. I know Chairman Sun has mentioned at the start of tonight's meeting that the budget committee is more than welcome to listen in on what those draft warrant articles are. Excuse me. I don't know if the intention is to vote at that meeting or if it's January 3rd. I would expect January 3rd. But
Can we ask that the warrant articles be close to the top of the agenda, if possible?
sure.
Please. For those that are
Is
able.
Mrs.
for
Douglas
those-
going to be in attendance? Because if so, we'll put it down.
No, because I knew this.
Put 'em up top.
No, because I knew the schedule months
the pledge.
ago and planned accordingly so that I would be ready for that day.
I will be,
I-
I will be in attendance. I hope it's close to the top if possible.
I'll be here.
Other updates is, I haven't watched the select board meeting, however, I have heard some comments that have made it to me about comments that the select board has made about not having sufficient funds at the end of the year to pay teachers and staff. I don't know.
That has to do with the unassigned fund balance, that we're dangerously low. If something happened catastrophically, I stated that we might not have the money if we don't get that fund balance up to where it is healthy, in my opinion, where it's
Gotcha.
healthy, okay?
There's no concerns from the school side about not being able to meet our liabilities and pay our teachers and staff. I just want to make that clear.
No.
I did also receive a number of dates that I'll just read off. I can share this for you as well for your, just in regards to the bond process. So there's been, obviously, we're talking about putting a new elementary school on warrant articles, and we have some key dates for the bond. Obviously, the bond vote would be at town meeting on March 12th. And then from there, we would apply for a bond. That's on April 26th. We do a bond sale on July 10th. The bond funds will be deposited into the school account on August 7th. Tax bills are then due on December 1st in 2024. We'll make our first interest payment on that bond in February, on February 15th. Second tax bill will be June 1st. And then on August 15th of 2025, we have our first interest and principal payment due of that bond. So key point is that there'll be more than sufficient funds to pay all of our liabilities, and there's zero issue with cash flow as a result of this bond.
One would have to be a supermajority because it's a bond.
Yes.
Two,
I mean, there's a lot of what-ifs in all
well,
of this.
since we don't know the draft warrant article because we couldn't provide it in time, there is going to be a chart that outlines the annual expenses anticipated for this cost, so that we don't go, oops, not 300,000. So we're going to have that information in advance, right? Year 1, year 2, year 10. There's no surprises. We know what the annual cost is.
I think your question is there going to be a table on the warrant article that would show the annual cost, correct?
I have no clue. I couldn't tell you.
So I sincerely hope that we follow the lead of other warrant articles that clearly outline the annual expenditures of each warrant article and provide that information in a clearly, concisely, and nicely detailed manner so there's no question as to what happens when our funds don't match our expenses.
Once the school board sees it, then we'll be able to opine on it.
Well, it should have been provided this month, but hey, things happen.
Well, they haven't seen them yet.
I haven't
Yeah,
seen
they
it
knew
yet, so
this
I don't know what it's gonna look
We
like.
knew the timeline months ago. There's no
I
reason-
agree, though, with the spirit of what you're saying is that it needs to be fully transparent. So,
Any other questions for Mr. Cutter this evening? All right. Member input, new business, school facilities. Mr. Burke?
We met yesterday. So just a couple of things. Carrie, I think you asked a question as far as the contingency, whether or not it was the schools or it is the school's contingency. The other would be developed once they get the bid for the project. That's what is explained.
So that would be the contractor's contingency, or?
Right.
So my other question would be, what is the format of it? Is it a GMP? Is it a GMP? Yeah, is it a cost sharing? What are we doing? How would you structure the contract?
How much what?
Like how, so in the, I've had guaranteed maximum price, but you can also have guaranteed maximum price with a cost sharing to incentivize the contractor to actually save money. Because if it's cost plus, there's no incentive directly to come in under budget because they want cost plus whatever.
No,
But if you do-
they talked about if it comes under budget, that those monies would go back to the town or
So
the
no,
school.
what you're missing is like, yes, but in which case then there's no incentive to go under. Because if I can spend $100 and get 5% of that, I'm spending $100 and get 5%. But if you say you come in under and the contractor gets 20 to 50%
Right,
of
but
that.
that's why you have an owner's project rep that's gonna be overseeing that, as far as not overseeing. I mean,
Okay.
you can smirk, I'm just telling you what they said, all right?
I understand. a good-
That's the purpose of that position, you know that.
Yes.
that-
Which is
and
going
you're
out to
working
bid,
For
right?
the school
Mm-hmm.
and for the town, not to expend monies that they don't have to. That's all I'm just reporting
No,
what
I'm
was
just,
discussed.
I was just curious as to the structure of the contract because there are some that are more beneficial than others.
Again, that I'm not sure.
Which is going out to bid, right? Sorry, you
Correct.
mentioned the,
They have not sent
Ownership.
it out yet, they have not sent the RFP out for that, because I think Mr. Cutter's the one who brought it up at the school board meeting,
correct,
that rather than just accepting the person who's there,
Right.
why don't we put it out and see if we do have the right person?
for the owner's rep.
Did you put the project itself out to bid? In other words, did you get multiple bids? Normally, when you do a project, you have a design, a scope of work, and you put it out and you receive bids.
Well, the,
Multiple bids, and then you choose from those bids, who's
They-
gonna build?
No, they put out,
you put out
for applicants to apply,
Interviewed.
I
RFP.
mean, and the architect and the builder is what came up with the price per square foot, which is $425.
But the builder,
Which-
they only just hired because they had put that out to bid recently.
In the world of construction, though, you usually have a scope of work, and then you get your prices.
We have our
You
scope
did.
of work, the prices will go out to bid under the leadership of the architect that we have in the firm that we
But-
hire.
But you've already hired somebody, right?
We've hired the
Architect?
architect,
Okay.
right, and it's his job then, once this passes, if it passes, to then go out to bid on all the materials, and what the average rate per square foot that we budgeted and that we'll go to March with is 425 a square foot.
But again, you usually have, like you say, we're gonna build this building, okay, and then you put it out there, and you get Hutter construction, this construction, that construction. They come and they look at this and they go, okay, it's gonna cost this much to build this building. Is that what happened, or did we just hire somebody and say, the job is yours, tell us what you're charging us?
No, we hired somebody who has industry experience with these types of size and scale projects, right?
But it wasn't competitively bid.
The arch.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, the architect.
The architect
The
was,
maybe the architect, but not the building.
none of it has though, because none of it's gone out, we
Yeah.
haven't even hit that
But-
part of the process yet.
But you already have your number.
We have an estimate based upon what the architect is seeing in industry.
Right.
That's it.
See, I
And
mean,
he was
that's
also
what makes
working
So
on
will
other
it go out
projects,
to
right?
bid?
It will go out to bid,
To
but
competitive.
I wish we had a
And
design
you'll,
build.
and you get so many bids, and then you'll go through them.
correct.
Okay.
If
So
it
what
passes
are-
in March.
If it
That's my
passes in
big thing,
March.
because the last project didn't do that.
And what we do know is that $425 a square foot for the school in today's rates, is a reasonable number that, is within normal for industry, like.
Also forecasting inflation going forward.
Correct,
What
like
it's done.
Trinity, I mean, the example is this, the same company is building a big addition on Trinity in Manchester, right? And they are paying $400 a square foot, but plus inflation, thinking 2 years out, right?
The same, what do you mean, the same architectural firm?
The same architectural firm. Yep.
What did you hire Keach and Nordstrom for then? Isn't that the builder that was just hired after going out to bid this summer?
I don't remember. It's
There was-
Barker Architects or something, yeah, Barker.
That's the architect that went out to bid years ago, and we've been working with for the past few years, but there was, Keach and Nordstrom was just announced as hired, I
As
believe,
the
as the
contractor
as
who
the
will then
contractor.
put the bids out for everything else involved with the project.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have an architect that's gone out to bid, contractor that's gone out to bid.
And then the
if
buyers,
bond
it's not the buyers, it's the owners.
Owner's rep
Owner's
is
rep,
going to
Owner's
bid.
rep, that's the Windy Hill guy, right? But now that's going out to RFP to make sure that that part's competitive.
Yeah,
I
okay.
appreciate you guys doing
Isn't that
that.
the guy who told us to carry 45 cents per?
No.
Are they the energy guy?
No, it's not.
No.
But I appreciate you guys doing that. Like, I heard the argument that there was the relationship there, like, there was comfortability. I think the right thing was, let's go out and see if there's other options out
He
there.
could be the right option. Let's
Could
just
be,
see.
right? The RFP process will play that out or not.
So one of the things that was added to the total cost is $200,000 for the possibility of demolition of the old building, maintaining the 30s building.
Yeah, I don't know where that name came from. I'm just gonna say that's ridiculously low in my opinion.
I don't foresee
What, the
that.
200,000?
Yeah.
Take it down? I think it'll fall pretty easy.
No, but then you have to
But
dispose
it's
of it.
a,
and
you're
clean
talking
it.
about asbestos abatements and a number of other considerations there.
That's not a real number.
I don't even think that's even in the ballpark of being a real number.
Just telling you, that's the number that was put out there.
Anything else from school
So,
facilities?
put out by whom? Just curious, who, was that by our consultant that put out that number? Or was that a school board number?
The architect's the one who said that,
School board hasn't
Put
even
that
seen
one
that, so.
So, okay, so the architect gave you that number. Okay.
again, not knowing where he got it from.
Anything else?
Calls into question.
Anything else, Brian?
And the last thing is the voting members of the board voted to I don't know, accept the plans as made, and we'll bring it to the school board. And the total cost, as of right now, and again, it could be more, with the $200,000 added, was $44,290,000.
Less 7 million.
Estimation of $7
Maybe.
million from the state,
What would you say, Mr. Hayes?
Less 7 million,
right,
maybe.
Potentially.
which would bring it to
No.
$37,290,000.
Bonded over 30 years.
Which is ironic, cause I got
With-
my head
with
ripped off
interest,
when I
what's
said
that come to?
35 million.
Do you know,
It was in the 50s.
50-something?
Anything else? Any
For what
questions?
Yeah.
School facilities?
Doug's carrying a number of 66 or 62.
I don't think that's.
Capital improvement?
CIP was at 62.
Capital improvement planning, any
Yep.
updates?
It's gone forward to the board of selectmen and is moving forward as warrant articles, so we're good until probably March, April.
Okay.
Yeah, Doug, you're right. Doug's number in the capital improvement was 62.
62.
Energy Committee, I think Ms. Kleiner gave a lot of those updates. They met last night, reviewed the, reviewed survey, reviewed the plan and the draft warrant article, and the next meeting is a public hearing on January 24th. Anything else to add?
Regular meeting,
Just a
No,
regular.
it says
Yeah.
public hearing on the portal.
sorry. Yeah, I think we did
Yeah,
realize
did
that last night.
yeah.
Oh,
A lot
I'm
of
sorry.
meetings.
I did have some other information. I just looked at it.
Mhm.
As far as the solar array, the design is completed. They're going for a permit on Friday. And the racking is supposed to be coming in this week, and the panels, as far as I know, are housed somewhere that'll be delivered, like, as soon as everything's approved.
Thank you for sharing that. Any other member input, new business this evening?
The board expressed dissatisfaction with how long this process is taking at our last meeting.
Oh, yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
I heard
What
that.
process? What, the solar panels that were supposed to be installed
I'll
quite some
leave it
time
at
ago?
that.
That we asked to deliver them about, yeah.
Any other member input, new business? Any other, open it up for public input again this evening? Seeing none, I will close public input. Our next, our actual next meeting is on Thursday, January 4th, which is where we will vote on town and school warrant articles. We are invited to attend the joint session, as Mr. Cutter said, next Thursday, to listen for school warrant article review and questions, presentations. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Motion by Ms. Douglas, second by Ms. Stevens. Quick roll call vote. Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Cutter.
Yes.
Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Ms. Stevens.
Yes.
Mr. Barca.
Yes.
Mr. Burke.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0-0. We are adjourned. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
You too.